So we want to welcome you. This is our first ever St. Petersburg Science Festival going virtual. Our school day. We're very excited for all of you to be here today, and we're going to start off pretty strong. I want to introduce a good friend of mine. His name is Chad Marin. He is from the St. Petersburg College of Innovation Lab, and he's going to be talking to you about extended realities to help enhance learning.
Hello, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get going here. Let's move this. All right, so thanks, David, I appreciate it. So yeah, today I'm gonna talk about extended realities to help enhance learning. So what I wanna talk about is what it is first. So extended reality is, so that X, when you see the X, it's a variable that can stand for anything. So right now, that can be 360-degree imagery, 360-degree virtual reality, true virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, spatial computing, holograms. So it's the full spectrum of immersive technology. I'm sorry, but I can still hear people in the background. I don't know if that's just me, but anyway. So that's extended reality. And so I mentioned immersive technologies, and so they imitate or extend our physical world via digital simulations to kind of give us the sense of immersion. And so immersion means to be completely absorbed into something. So here's a quick little video of some stuff to get you an idea. So there's no audio here. So here's an advertisement that I did that's actually inside virtual reality. So this was a talk that I was going to do. So not in the space that you see me in now, but inside VR, virtual reality. So there's a 3D scan of my son inside of VR space, which is really kind of a fun thing. So you can actually paint in there. And speaking of painting, this is a live view of, I was watching a painter paint inside virtual reality. So they're doing some really cool little art things, but they're doing it inside that immersive space, and being able to watch them also inside that space is really kind of a cool thing. Sorry, but somebody still needs to mute. Sorry, guys. And then there's also ways to interact with 3D content inside virtual reality. So this is me and a colleague. And then to do, we all do research like through Google, but imagine being able to do this in this kind of a way, to see information displayed this way instead of just on a basic sheet of paper. And then this is another way. So as you can see in the bottom screen, I'm actually looking through my camera lens, but people are in VR watching me, and I'm able to give a tour of my lab this way. So they can actually see what I'm doing, but they're actually in VR. So they can be anywhere in the world and see what I'm seeing, which is really kind of a neat thing. And that software, by the way, is called Roomy. So now this is the mobile version. So people are on their cell phones and they can still interact inside virtual reality space. So they're seeing two realities, my physical reality and also the virtual reality. And then what we're getting ready to start seeing is what's called volumetric video. So this is a live video and it looks very real. Imagine being able to see this kind of thing in real, like photorealistic view. So eventually it's going to be like you're actually on this street, but you're going to be in your living room, or in your kitchen looking at this kind of thing. So when you get these high definition captures of this stuff, that's going to be what we're being able to see now, is to work in photorealistic space like this. And then you can also collaborate. So this is actually physically my space, and I'm moving around digital content in my office. And there's that one guy that just walked by. He was in San Francisco and I'm in St. Petersburg, and I'm able to interact, and it's like we're both in the same room together, even though we're across the country. And so I'm moving these 3D objects around in my physical office, but those are digital objects. So I'm going to fast forward over this, and if we have time, I'll show you some of the other videos. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what augmented reality is. So it's AR for short. It's an overlay of computer generated content onto the real world. So, but the thing is, the digital content does not recognize and therefore respond to the physical objects that are within the real world. So a really good example of what augmented reality is a game called Pokemon Go, which I'm sure you've heard of it at least, and probably a lot of you have probably played. So they're walking around in the real world, and then these little Pokemons come up, and you have to go in and try to capture them. A really fun game, but this started to introduce people to what augmented reality can do. So in a lot of cases, those little Pokemon don't realize that you are actually there, but it's a really fun kind of a game that shows you what's possible with augmented reality. And check this out. This is neat. This is also part of an augmented reality
Hi,
experiment.
Keepan here, computer vision engineer. My team at Snap works to help make our camera smarter so it can better understand the world around us. Last year, we introduced landmarkers, which enable the Snapchat camera to understand individual buildings and allowed lenses to interact with some of the world's greatest landmarks. Now, we've continued to evolve the technology to understand and augment larger areas, unlocking exciting new capabilities. Using various sources of data, 360-degree images, and community snaps, we're able to build up a digital representation of the physical world, a point cloud representing the geometry of the surfaces around us. Combining this with 3D reconstruction, machine learning, and distributed cloud compute, we're able to map whole city blocks. Meet local lenses.
Now they can actually do their own art.
Now, Snapchatters can join a persistent shared AR world built right on top of the physical one. You and your friends can step into these worlds together, collaborating creatively and experiencing a whole new dimension of AR. As our team continues to build these new worlds, we hope you enjoy.
And so I already kind of talked about virtual reality, but I just want to explain what that is. Virtual reality essentially is a computer tricking your brain into believing that you are in a different environment. So it's a simulation. So there's a concept called 6 degrees of freedom. And so that tracks the whole room experience. So that's, you get more freedom to kind of explore your locations, you can interact with objects and even dodge virtual bullets. So the 6th DOF is the one on the right. So you can move in and out of space. You can tilt your head all around. So 3 DOF is more like Google Cardboard. So when you're looking through like your phone and you kind of look around, the room moves with you. It's still in 360-degree image, but as you look around, the room kind of moves with you. Whereas virtual reality, you are in that room, it's stationary, and you can move around and interact inside it. This is one slide I like to share. It shows a student who's actually blind in one eye, and he partially blind. And so he came in and wanted to try VR, didn't know if it was going to work. But I said, well, you know, try it anyway and see how it works for you. So you can see by the smile that it actually worked. And he told me that this virtual reality, it's called Tilt Brush, where you can paint in 3D, and it's a gorgeous app. He said that this actually increased his peripheral vision to his functioning eye. So the experience for him was very impressive. So there's a lot of like health benefits to VR as well. This was something that was fun. So that's a picture of me actually right there in the middle. I'm in New York City and I'm wearing a VR headset, but I'm presenting to a group of people. There's a lot of people physically in Tampa. Those are the other pictures you see. But there was people from all over the world. And so I was actually inside VR, and you could kind of see the screens in the different pictures where it shows my presentation slides, but I'm also able to walk around in virtual reality space and interact with the people that are actually in there. So that's kind of a pretty cool thing. Some other things that we've done with virtual reality is we worked with the Imagine Museum, and they had veterans come in and they were recorded telling their story of military service, but then they were asked to go inside virtual reality, use Tilt Brush, and design a sculpture that we would then 3D print for them. So here's our proof of concept. My intern actually went into Tilt Brush and designed this house, again, in virtual reality. It took him about 20 minutes. And so he did all the design in there. And then what we did is we were able to export that file in Tilt Brush and then put it into Blender and do some little cleanups. And then you can see on the right, we actually 3D printed it. And so then they put everything on display. So the artists, the veterans would go in, design their sculpture, and then we would print it out for them and they put it on display at the museum. Really cool project. And so speaking of that, we also do a lot of 3D scanning too. So you can see in the middle, that's a shark tooth. And we're scanning this with our phone. And then you can see that it does a really good representation. It scans this pretty well through true depth scanning. And so then I can actually put that into software like Blender or something, which is free. And then I can 3D print it or put it in VR, like you can see the 3D scan in VR here. And there at the bottom, working with some kids in a museum, and they're working on 3D scanning projects. But what's nice is we're actually scanning dinosaur fossils, which eventually we will hold those fossils in our hand using the merge cube, which you can see over there on the left. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, we actually had to put this on pause for a while because you have to physically be in the space. Now, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but you can actually be on your phone or a tablet. You can go into Google and you can do a search for, say, sea turtle or octopus or panda, whatever. And then you're able to actually put those objects into your space. So it's a nice way to learn about those objects. You can actually see them the way they're supposed to be seen, the size they're supposed to be seen. I mean, yeah, you can read about them in a book, and that's great. But when you experience the animal right there in your space, you get a better sense of the scale of these things. So I wanted to take it a step further. So I am pretending that I'm writing a research paper. So you can see the video on the left that this is a research paper. And instead of having a little thumbnail of a picture of a 3D object, like in this case, I'm writing about a helmet. And so what I would do is I could bring this into my classroom and I could have the students and my teacher read my paper, but then I've got this object that I've embedded inside the electronic document. So then I can actually move this around and put it in my space. So this is a really great way to learn about 3D content. I mean, think about it. Our world is in 3D, right? And if we're talking about something in 3D, we might as well figure out ways to put it in 3D that make more sense for people who are trying to learn about what you're writing about. So I think we're going to start to see research papers, especially by the time you guys make it to high school. You're probably going to be doing these types of papers, which is pretty exciting. And then check this thing out. This is pretty neat. This is a brand new concept here where you can actually use your phone and cut and paste something from your physical world and just drag it into your document or whatever you're doing. So this is something that's going to be pretty neat. Now, of course, I'm a librarian. I work at St. Petersburg College. There's a thing called plagiarism. You don't want to plagiarize words. You also don't want to plagiarize objects. So you would actually, in this case, you would want to let the person reading your paper, your teacher or whoever, to know that this is not your object, that you got it from the physical world in this case. So you'd let your reader know that this is not your creation. So some other things that we do in the innovation lab is we do what's called co-spaces. It's an application where you can create virtual reality and also augmented reality. So you can see here there's some students creating virtual reality experiences. The kid on the right is actually creating a 3D experience with the merge cube. So he's actually holding the cube and creating a game where he can interact with it that way. So these kids create the experience, and then we go into the lab and look at what they did inside virtual reality. It's really fun for them. We also do VR and AR workshops. And these kids are actually scanning themselves to learn how it works. And then we can actually create augmented reality or put them in VR and they can interact with their self, I guess, inside those spaces. And this is a 360. So I was working in the downtown center and I did a 360 image of this, and then we were able to add some virtual reality components to it. And so this was a fun workshop to do with all these. I think these were all 8th graders, but so you can see it's all moving around. So this would be 3 DOF. So I mentioned that earlier. So this would be 3 degrees of freedom. But you can see there's content that's moving around inside that space. And then here's the merge cube. So we actually did a 3D scan of the St. Petersburg College logo, and then we made it 3-dimensional. And now you can see I'm physically holding this object, which is really kind of neat. And also with CoSpaces, you can create something on the computer, and then you can overlay it onto your physical space. So here's an AR example. And I had an idea of like, wow, how cool would it be if we had like a cardboard box, like a fort type of thing, and then you would wear your goggles, and then you would go inside your own creation. It's a cardboard box, but now you're actually, you know, looking at the content that you actually created yourself. Kind of a fun thing. Another project that we did was these are college students, and they have to use some kind of technology. And so this is an American history class. And so this one particular group wanted to do a life mask, but they didn't want to put clay or whatever on top of their face. So we did a 3D scan. So these students actually scanned themselves. That's what's going on in the green slide up there. So that's a 3D scan. And then we took the file and we put it into Blender, which is free, by the way. And we cleaned it up a little bit, and then we took it out, and then we 3D printed it. So that red mask is what we 3D printed. And really, this was the first time we ever tried it, and it turned out pretty good our first time. So again, we scanned something physical. In this case, it was a human, and then we cleaned it up a little bit, and then we were able to 3D print it. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And I mentioned this earlier, where you can collaborate inside this space. So learning is going to be very interesting coming here in the future. Let me see if I have yeah, I do. So let me play some of these. So this one over here on the right, this is in my office, and I'm working with all these other people, and they're from all over the world. And one of the designers actually brings in a model of a phone store. And so then we can make it as big as we want, and we can all interact and walk inside this phone store. So when it comes to learning, you can actually do quite a bit with this. I could bring in a hospital room or a machine shop or whatever it is, and I can have any space that I want to interact with my students in. And that's pretty important stuff here. So I'm thinking this is going to be something that you're going to start to see more and more of in education. And so we're able to bring this model down even further, and it's like a dollhouse view. And so we're all looking at this. All these people are from a different part of the world, and we're all interacting with it like we're in the same space. And then this one over here on the right just shows all the people in the room, and we're moving around all this content in that space. So we can view all these documents, we can work on 3D objects together, and it's just like we're in the same room together. So the question is, can these extended realities improve learning? And I think the answer is yes. And I'm just going to show a couple examples. I mean, so this example on the left shows I'm walking through this digital version of what's called a cadaver. And so I can actually look through it, and you can see it's identifying the different parts of the body. And as I'm walking through it, it dissolves, and I can kind of see all these different parts. So I can read about this human body in a book, right? It's going to take me a bunch of times to read it to really get it. But when I walk through a human body and I can see it identified as I go through it, I'm going to remember that experience. And so here's an example of 2 students right here looking. So they're seeing a heart right there in their space, and I'm looking at it through an iPad. So now they're able to take parts of the heart apart and see the blood flow and just see how it all works, right? So they came back to me and said, we aced our test because we were able to remember all the parts because we were pulling it apart. You can't do that, obviously, in the real world, right? So this is a really good way to learn. This is going to enhance learning big time. So we're seeing it now. Again, by the time you guys are in high school, you're going to probably see a lot more of this.
So, Chad, that
So
is definitely some amazing and very interesting things that I think these students can be looking forward to.
definitely.
So, at
Yep.
this point in time, we're going to open it up for questions.
Sure.
Now, we're going to do our best to get to all of our guest questions, but please do not get discouraged. We have around 3,300 students registered. So what we want you to do is to please submit any questions. And if we can't get to your question due to time constraints, what we're going to do is we're going to try to create a log of all of these and get those answers out to everyone. So we may get some duplicate questions. So bring in your questions at this point in time, but I'm going to start with a couple while you're sending your questions in. So, Chad, what do you think in your experience? What can these students look forward to in terms of their careers? Or how are they going to be seeing AR, VR in their world around them moving forward?
Yeah, and really, yeah, it's a good question. You're going to start to see it everywhere. I mean, whatever industry you're in, I mean, it's so much better. Like, say you're in advertising or even the sciences. If I came in and I was trying to explain a complex subject to you, and I'm trying to do it with just words, it might be difficult for all of us to kind of do that. But if I came in and said, oh, let me show you this model real quick, and I put it into our space, and it's this big, nice three-dimensional object that we can all look at and interact with, that learning experience is going to be enhanced. So I'm thinking a lot of, not every industry, but there's a lot of industries that are going to use this technology. Even like the airline industry, they use augmented reality now to kind of superimpose things over top of an airplane and see the different parts and find out if there's any problems with the machinery.
So, if a student wanted to learn how to do this stuff, is there a way that they can maybe self-teach themselves? Is there a certain type of degree, or are there things that maybe they should be doing now as, in high school or middle and elementary school to start learning some of the basics? And how hard is it really to do this?
I mean, it's not, I mean, what I would do is look at like a program like Unity, which is free. And also, if you start getting into Unity and you look at how to design things that are in 3D, you can also take that into like gaming. Game development is huge, especially now with a lot more people working from home. So if you look at Unity, again, it's free to download. Talk to your parents, see if it's okay, and then they've got tons of really great tutorials built into the software already. And they also have like YouTube channels where you can just watch some tutorials that way. That's what I would recommend, and learn, the basics of Unity. If you learn that, you can take that anywhere and do all kinds of cool stuff with it.
So another question is, do you have any ideas where, it might be difficult to answer, but where do you see some of this technology going? Like, you're going from 360 to, and now it's VR with 3 dimensions, and now it's 6 dimensions. What
Yeah.
do you think might be some of the newest trends coming along in the next 10 years that we're going to be able to start doing?
Yeah, good question. I think if you look at 5G, right? I'm sure you've all heard about the wireless, the fifth generation of wireless, which makes our download speeds and upload speeds super fast. It also creates almost zero latency. So what that means is, I'll give you an example. I was in Spatial the other day and I was meeting with somebody from San Francisco, and we both did a little high five inside VR space. And the second we both touched hands, there was a haptic thing going on where we could both hear it, almost instantaneous. And then with augmented reality glasses coming out, we're going to start to see people on the street anywhere. And then let's say Dave and I want to have a meeting. We could quickly schedule a meeting. He could be in San Francisco, I could be in China, whatever. And we could then say, hey, let's schedule a meeting real quick, fire it up, put our glasses on. And then with the power of 5G networks, we can interact with content together. We can meet like we are now. And the cool thing is, some of this stuff has realistic avatars too. So I can make my 3D representation, my digital clone, my digital self, look pretty much like I look now. So it's very realistic. So I think collaboration and meetings are going to just change big time, and it's already happening now. But with 5G just over the horizon, and computer vision, and artificial intelligence becoming, more and more powerful, it's just going to be pretty exciting times.
Wonderful. Well, Chad, thank you very much. It's been a terrific session. Thank you very much for your time. And for
Sure
those
thing.
of you watching, thank you. And you can stay on this track for our next speaker, or you can switch tracks. But thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yep. Thanks a lot.